Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie Midnight Special starts in the U.S. state of Texas with Roy and Lucas in a motel room, and they have a kid with them named Alton. We find out that Roy kidnapped Alton with the help of his friend Lucas, because Lucas is actually a police officer. So he was able to help Roy kidnap Alton. The two of them are getting ready to leave the motel because the news is broadcasting the story about Roy kidnapping Alton, and they're showing Alton and Roy's descriptions on TV so that anyone who sees them can report them to the police. The three of them leave the motel and get into Lucas's car, taking off because it's too risky to stay at the motel any longer. As they're leaving to get in the car, the motel receptionist sees them, and she's also watching the news, so she finds out about Alton's kidnapping and recognizes Roy from his picture on TV. She calls the police to report Roy and Lucas for kidnapping Alton and gives the cops a description of their car and its license plate. On the road, Roy and Lucas hear over Lucas's police radio that there's an alert out for their car, so they get really worried and scared. Lucas changes their route to avoid running into any police patrols that could arrest them. At the same time, we cut to a guy named Clifton, who runs a charitable religious organization called The Ranch. We find out that Clifton is Alton's adoptive father, and it was his wife who called the police to report Alton's kidnapping. When Clifton sees the news, he gets really worried about Alton because the kidnapping story is all over TV. Clifton wants to get to Alton before the police do, so he orders one of his guys, Doc, to find Alton before the cops do, and gives Doc 4 days to find and bring Alton back. After that, Clifton goes into the meeting hall at his organization. Inside the hall, there are a lot of members from the ranch, all gathered to hear Clifton's usual sermon. But suddenly, federal agents show up with the police and raid the ranch. They storm into the hall and arrest Clifton and his staff, as well as all the members who were there. They load everyone onto buses and take them to a school gymnasium to interrogate them, since there are so many people and they need a big space. We go back to Roy and Lucas has changed their route to avoid the police. But while driving at night, he suddenly sees a car in the middle of the road. Lucas swerves and ends up in the sand on the side of the road. Then another car coming from the opposite direction crashes into the car in the middle of the road. Lucas jumps out of his car to check on the driver of the crashed car and finds it's a woman who's injured and unconscious. At that moment, a police car just happens to show up and stops next to them. The officer gets out, and Lucas tells him to call an ambulance. But before the cop can call it in, he notices that Lucas's car matches the one from the police alert. Lucas shoots the cop before he can pull his gun, aiming for his chest because he knows the cop is wearing a bulletproof vest. The officer gets hit but doesn't die and falls to the ground. After that, Lucas calls the police station to report that a cop and a woman are injured on the road and gives them the location of the accident. Then he gets back in the car and they keep going. We return to the federal agents who are handing out forms to the ranch members they arrested. The forms have questions they need to answer, most of them about Alton. In a room at the school, Agent Miller is interrogating Clifton, asking him about the ranch's activities. Clifton says their activities are raising livestock and running dairy farms, and that it's all for their own use, not for sacred sale. Paul then tells him that the numbers and codes they found turned out to be encrypted U.S. military secrets, and the U.S. government considers it treason, as if Clifton was sending secret codes with military secrets to other countries. When Clifton realizes how serious it is, he admits that it was Alton who was saying those codes during his episodes, because Alton is not a normal kid. He has superpowers. He also speaks many languages, even some unknown ones. Everyone at the ranch was following Alton's words and codes because they believed he was their religious savior. Paul feels that the whole thing is weird and doesn't make any sense at all, and he's still suspicious that Clifton was leaking military secrets using the codes he was saying in his religious sermons to the members of his group. Clifton also tells them that Alton is his adopted son, but admits that Alton's real father is Roy, who is actually the one who kidnapped Alton. At that point, Paul thinks they'll easily catch Roy and take Alton from him, but Clifton just mocks him and tells him he doesn't know who he's really dealing with, meaning Alton, because Alton is actually an extraordinary kid and can't be taken by force. Meanwhile, Roy, Lucas, and Alton arrive at the house of a guy named Alden. Alden used to work at the ranch, so he knows Alton and his abilities, and he wants to help them. Alden lets them stay at his place and covers all the windows with paper so sunlight can't get in, since sunlight affects Alton and makes him sick. Alton goes to sleep, and later he sits with Roy to help him draw a map of a certain area. This is the place Alton wants to go to because something huge is going to happen there. We find out that Roy, Lucas, and Alden all believe in Alton and trust him, just like Clifton and the ranch members, because they also believe in Alton's powers. The next day, they see on the news that Roy kidnapping Alton is now all over the country, not just in Texas. After that, Roy and Lucas feel the house shaking like an earthquake, and the electricity keeps flickering. They rush to check on Alton and find Alden sitting in front of him, with Alton's eyes glowing. Alden is trying to absorb the rays coming from Alton's eyes. Roy immediately knocks Alden out and hugs Alton, who's exhausted from the energy drain. On top of that, the earthquake knocked the paper off the windows, so sunlight came in and made things worse for Alton. Back to Paul, who's now interrogating ranch employees and asking about Alton. One woman tells him that Alton has superpowers. He can break windows and doors, disable moving cars, and his powers get stronger as he gets older. She says Alton was just one of many kids at the ranch, and they used to make him sleep during the day and wake up at night to keep him out of the sun. Another employee tells Paul that Alton shoots rays from his eyes and made him see all sorts of strange things. After the feds and Paul learn everything about Alton and the ranch, they send everyone back to the school gym so they can go home. Back at Alden's house, after Alden wakes up from being knocked out, Roy takes his car so they can keep moving, and they hide Lucas's car at Alden's place so the police won't find it. On the road, Lucas is shocked to see that Alton understands everything being broadcast on the radio in every language, and even knows what's going to be said before it airs. They stop at a gas station to fill up. Lucas goes into the convenience store to buy food and drinks, while Alton, wearing dark sunglasses to protect his eyes from any light or rays, waits in the car. A woman sees Alton and thinks he's lost, but Roy rushes over and tells her he's Alton's father, so she leaves. Roy yells at Alton for not listening and getting out of the car, but Alton apologizes and says he's sorry. Suddenly, huge pieces of a satellite explode in space and start raining down from the sky. Lucas, Roy, and Alton jump in the car and speed away from the gas station as the satellite debris crashes down like meteors, blowing up the station and the cars there. After that, they go to Sarah's place. She's sitting alone, and when they come in, she's overjoyed to see her son Alton because she hasn't seen him in a long time. Alton had been staying at the ranch with Clifton. Sarah notices that Alton's nose is bleeding, so Lucas suggests taking him to the hospital, but Roy insists they need to get to the location Alton told them about, and that they just have to tough it out a bit longer. Roy is also worried that if they take Alton to the hospital, the police will find him. At the same time, Doc and Levi, Clifton's assistants, are getting ready with guns. They go to the house of Sarah's grandmother to get Sarah's address, figuring Roy will go there with Alton. Meanwhile, Paul and the feds are at the gas station, investigating the satellite explosion. They realize Alton caused the satellite to crash, thinking he did it to stop nuclear activity. They interpret this as Alton helping another country invade America, and that he's warning of nuclear attacks by blowing up the satellite. They also find out the satellite fell because Alton disabled it with his powers, so it malfunctioned and exploded. They decide to track the radiation Alton emits from his eyes using drones to pinpoint his exact location and arrest him, since now he's considered a major threat to national security. Back at Sarah's house, Roy and Sarah get really worried when they see the news about the satellite crashing into the gas station, so they decide to leave Alden's car at Sarah's place, take her car, and head out at night, since the police will definitely find them if they stay. On the way, Alton admits he brought down the satellite because the police were tracking him through it, but he says the police won't stop chasing him, so they have to hurry and get to the place he wants to go at the right time. Meanwhile, Doc and Levi go to Sarah's house but don't find her there, so they realize she left with Roy and Alton before they arrived. Around this time, Alton has a breathing attack, so they pull over. Lucas wants to take him to the hospital, but Roy refuses, and they get into a fight. Alton recovers from the attack and tells them they have to split up now because when he looks at the sky, he can tell the feds and police are closing in on them. Alton asks Lucas to take Sarah and the car and go to a hotel for the night, while he and Roy continue on foot through the woods. They do what Alton says, and Roy and Alton walk through the forest until they find a hideout, where they spend the night. Alton tells Roy that in the morning, when the sun rises, he wants to stand in the middle of the sunlight. Roy warns him that it's dangerous, but Alton insists he wants to do it. Roy has no choice but to agree, because even though Alton is just a kid, he's the one calling the shots, and they all trust him completely. Meanwhile, Paul confirms that the numbers and his analysis of the coordinates. At this point, Alton and Roy are still sitting inside, waiting for sunrise. Alton wants to watch the sunrise, and he actually manages to see it without his goggles. Even though it's tough on him and the whole ground shakes beneath them, he manages to hold on, opens his eyes, and looks at the sunlight. After that, Roy and Alton return to the hotel room where Lucas is staying. It's already daytime, so Lucas opens the door for them, surprised at how Alton is out in the sunlight without his goggles. They sit down so Alton can explain everything to them. He tells them that he belongs to another world, a world that exists beneath theirs, and that he needs to go back to his people in that other world because they're just like him, with the same abilities and powers. Suddenly, while Roy and Lucas are outside getting the car ready to continue their journey, they're ambushed by Doc and Levi at the door. Doc and Levi start shooting at them, hitting both Roy and Lucas. Then they tie them up to a fence, go inside, and kidnap Alton, escaping with him in their car. After a while, Lucas and Roy manage to get free from their restraints, get in their car, and follow Doc and Levi's car. But the road is super crowded, and they find the army and police have set up a roadblock in the middle of the road. Roy tries to take a shortcut off the side of the street to catch up to Doc and Levi's car, but the army forces him back onto the main road, so he has to get back in line. As they're driving, they notice Doc and Levi's car is sitting empty in the traffic, so they realize the military already took Alton from them. Roy feels like they'll never see Alton again, that he's gone for good. Meanwhile, Alton is in a big interrogation room with Agent Paul, Agent Miller, and some army officers and federal agents. They all want to question him because, to them, Alton is basically a dangerous weapon. But Alton asks them all to leave except Paul, saying he'll only talk to him. Paul is confused, but everyone leaves, and Paul sits down with Alton. Alton's eyes start to glow, and he explains to Paul that he's from another world and needs to get out of there because, on March 6th, he has to make his rendezvous with his world. They're supposed to come for him then. Paul believes Alton and decides to help him. Alton tells Paul that Roy, Lucas, and Sarah are out on the street near a public phone. Alton knows this because of his powers. Paul calls Roy at that payphone and gives him a secret location to meet so he can return Alton to them. Roy, Lucas, and Sarah are overjoyed and go to the meeting spot at the exact time and place. Sure enough, Paul brings Alton to them and hands him over. Paul takes handcuffs from Lucas to cuff his own hands and even wants to punch himself in the face so it'll look like Roy attacked him and took Alton by force. Roy, Lucas, Sarah, and Alton continue on their way but run into another army roadblock. They push through it with their car and reach the place Alton had specified. That day is March 6th. Alton and Sarah get out of the car and head to the designated spot. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking, and strange buildings rise up from beneath the earth. Everyone sees this and is shocked. Transparent people come out of those buildings and take Alton with them. Just like that, Alton returns to his real world. The army arrests Roy and puts him in jail, but deep down, Roy is happy and at peace because he delivered his adopted son to the place where he truly belongs. And that's how the movie ends. Don't forget to follow for more recaps. See you next time.